going to show you this document that the JTACS actually sent to me and will be sent via email as well. But I figure we can kind of go through it a little bit. I'm sure all of you guys have reviewed for a journal before, and especially for JTACS, they're a little bit, because we are. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. So, we are now a partner in.
Wait, right now we just see
No,
Zoom.
we're seeing your other screen.
Oh, okay, because
This
I'm.
is a Zoom screen.
That's why. Okay, all right, we'll just leave it there. How about now?
Yep.
Okay, so we are a partner organization with JTACS. We want to continue to be with them. So these are some rules or sacred principles, they call it, that they want us to understand, even though we are all part of CWIS. They wanted to make sure that when you're providing reviews for JTACS, you should put JTACS goals and objective first. And so even though you're a CWIS reviewer, you're responsible with the journal, and the goal is to have a high quality journal. And publishing low quality research will not help CWIS or the journal, which I think that's a pretty self-explanatory part of it. It is a confidential, so even though it's maybe your buddy's paper, you should probably, well, first of all, if it's your buddy's paper, maybe you should recuse yourself, but we're all buddies, so it's a little bit hard. But it is a confidential process. They asked.
Susan, didn't they move to double blinded? Are we following that? Because the submission will come.
It is actually, you're right, absolutely right. It is double blinded. It is double blinded. But like sometimes we talk about our project to our buddies, and like, oh, that's fun, and stuff like that. And know the reporting guideline consort stroke, and avoid bias. So if it's something that you're also working on, kind of try to avoid this bias thing when we're doing the review. And then when you're invited to review, consider it promptly. Do I have a conflict of interest? So I think that was part of it. It's just kind of understanding ourselves. Do not review your buddy's work. Do I have the time? That's another thing that they're very concerned about, is meeting the deadline. And I think for almost all journal, and especially in JTACS, is 2 weeks deadline. And then do I have the necessary expertise? There was a question before about necessary expertise. If what you're concerned about is the statistical problem, you certainly can click on one of the things that JTACS asks you when you're doing the review is, do you think this paper needs a biostatistician review? And if that's the case, just click on it. I have done multiple of these, and just kind of like, I don't know enough about this, fancy statistical work. I would ask someone else to look at it, and they have a biostat on staff to look at it. So if you are going to accept, please consider that. If you're going to decline the invitation, please suggest names of alternate reviewers, and it'll go to me, I think, and then so I can kind of see. If you're going to accept the invitation, make sure you finish it before the deadline. Whichever it is, do it promptly. So you can, refuse, but please don't refuse too much unless it's like a conflict of interest. On the review itself, you're being asked to advise and not decide on the publication. Your review should always help the author to improve their manuscript. So be nice, be constructive. Don't say it to the author, this paper should be published, because that should be only the editor who would be able to do that. And by editor, I mean like Dr. Coimbra, not even me. I will just be like, hey, we recommend this. And so he will be the one who decides. Be courteous. And explain and support your judgment. So it says, this is a bad paper. Don't just say it's a bad paper, but more constructive criticism. I think this paper can be better, blah, blah, blah. Or I think that you need to do certain things to support your argument, and explain that fully. Excuse me. When you're writing to the report itself, there's comments to the editor, which you can be a little bit more free to explain, and comment to the author, which should be constructive. And then recommendations, and there's like a bunch of recommendations and questions in the JTACS reviewer page. Comments to the author says, do not write, I love this paper, heart, heart, heart. I've never read a manuscript better than this before, fantastic. without any doubt should be accepted for publication. Should not do that. Comments to the author, usually they ask for a structured thing. Then if you go to the actual editorial manager and look at it, they have a template that you can follow, but basically ask for general comments. So you summarize the work, major comments, address each of the sections, use like introduction and whatever comments, method, whatever comments, and minor comments, which is the spelling, writing, grammar, like I don't really understand your sentence on this, maybe you can restructure it and things like that. Please look at the figure tables, abstract titles, and then they ask you to write this in the Word document in case, the connection or a website issue arise. I have to say, I don't always do this, but you can if you want to. What makes a good review report? It should be objective and unbiased, contain constructive, critical, thorough evaluation of the manuscript, and polite and courteous. And then this kind of repeat itself. Brief summary, what makes a good review? Brief summary, opinion on the advanced interest the manuscript represents, comments on whether the results were analyzed, interpreted correctly, identify strengths, weaknesses, limitations of the study. User only can add to the limitations of the study if you think there's more. Suggest further work to improve the manuscript. Some cases extend the finding. You can tell people take out these figures, it doesn't really help, things like that. Can comments on whether the title, abstract, introduction, discussion are appropriate, and whether citations are appropriate. So make a run through of the references too to see if it's really appropriate. Sometimes they claim something I've never heard that before. Look at the reference, go down, and you just kind of this is not what the paper is talking about. Again, the guidelines and checklists is important for them. Now, what can we tell the editor? Well, the confidential comments of the editor, I think, is when we can kind of discuss things a little bit more openly, especially if there's any ethics issue of ethics and fraud involved. If you think there's a data manipulation or fabrication, if you think there's some sort of unethical research on human subject, consent was waived, and you're you cannot waive this consent, this is a clinical trial type stuff like that. Vertebrates, obviously, if they use animals, they need IO-cook and all that, so you cannot just use animal model without any overseeing body. If you're concerned about plagiarism, duplicate submission, duplicate publication, recommend, and then if you want to recommend a decision, so that would be fine here. I think this paper would be highly cited by the journals, by the people that are in this space, I guess, and expertise. That would be something to show, because that's what they want. I think JTACS in particular wants a lot of citations, so their high impact number, the impact number can continue to go up. And they say it's okay to use sometimes language which is more blunt or harsh in the editorial and the confidential comments of the editor. So while to the author, we want to build them up to kind of give them constructive criticism, to the editor, well, this paper is really not done well, something like that. Final thoughts: be aware of the scope of the journal, and then I'm sure you've written for JTACS, so there's instructor for authors and instruction for authors. Brush it up a little bit before we do it. Timely review is important for them. Focus on novelty and quality. Be critical but polite and constructive, and do not accept low quality research. We all benefit from a strong and highly cited journal. That's from JTACS, so I'm just repeating whatever they're saying. So, which I think is pretty reasonable. I think we all kind of want a good representation of good paper coming out of our organization to JTACS. So it's a pretty big deal request as a reviewer, and we should be able to do that.
Do we know what the acceptance rate was last year, Sarah?
85%, something.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was pretty high.
Mm-hmm. Now, the JTACS give you CME for reviews, and so if you and I have to rate them, I have to rate all the reviews. So the review should not be one sentence, 2 sentences. So if you write a good review, and that would be good, right? So kind of if you want to get the CME out of that, that's what And they always ask you, how long did you take to make the review? So that's, I guess, a little bit of incentive. Not that we wouldn't have done it anyways, but it's a good incentive. Y'all have any more questions? You good?
Do we know how many we're expecting each one of us to have to go through?
It's tough to say. We have 30 total expected, or 30 total abstracts. I suspect most people will submit because we do, make that kind of an expectation. But we've never had 100%, so I don't think there will be that many. We have enough reviewers. We asked everyone to kind of guess how many they thought they could do, and we have enough reviewers that nobody should be maxed out. Whatever they reported as the number that they thought they could do, we have more than that many available for 2 reviews to be done, even at that number. So I think it should be okay. Like I say, nobody should be at their maximum, and that's even if everybody submitted, and I don't think we'll get everybody. I think of the 30, if we received between 20 to 24 papers out of 30, I think I would feel pretty good about that. That's kind of my goal.
And when is the deadline?
April 1st.
April 1st.
Yep. And then Dr. Cardico has the list, and the list that we have has everyone who has, or people disclose. Well, you guys know this, you've filled them out before, but they list everyone who has contributed to that particular abstract. So she'll make sure in advance that anyone who has reported that they've contributed to a project doesn't get asked. But certainly then, like she mentioned, if you feel like you have a conflict because
you can tell,
you have a personal relationship or something, that then you also self-disclose to pull yourself off the paper. But we'll work together to make sure that anyone who's clearly on the paper already doesn't get assigned to it. So that should work, I think, fairly smoothly. So our goal is to have those all looked at. I'll give a look over of what she's assigning to, just in case I know of any kind of natural conflicts, just based on personal relationships or anything like that. So I think they'll be assigned fairly quickly. And I know you're planning, Dr. Cardico, to assign anyone that submits early. You'll just assign them as they come in, right?
Yeah.
I think that was what we.
Nobody has come in though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't expect anyone will come early.
Like a month
I mean, that would be lovely, but I think everybody's pretty frantically writing. So my guess is we won't see much before April 1st, but any that do come in will get assigned in advance.
And it's the hard stop for due date. It's really before the summit, because the point is that we want to make sure that when the review happens, it happens independently on the paper. Once you see them, kind of give the presentation and the stage, I think opinion will change, but you shouldn't really kind of bank on that, right? You should just kind of read the paper. However the paper is presented, that's what's going to go to JTACS, because other people who did not come to CWIS would have just read the paper and not watched the presentation as well. So
is the plan for the decision? I know you said the review, obviously, the decision to be made prior to. I know AASD did it, I want to say last year, maybe, that they literally kind of sent out the notice at 5 minutes after the conclusion of the meeting, sort of thing.
what do you mean? Oh, for acceptance?
Correct.
No.
No, just the first round of review.
Yeah, first
will
round of review.
occur before the summit. So
Okay.
that initial review by the 2 reviewers that are selected from our group will happen, before the summit.
Mhm.
Got it.
So there's no, as Dr. Cardico mentioned, there's no kind of influence based on hearing the audible presentation. Any additional information that someone could glean, we don't want that to influence their actual rating of the paper or the project overall.
Mhm.
So positively or negatively. So that's why we make such a fuss about, the timing. So they have to have it in by April 1st, and then the reviewers have to complete before the summit. And so that's why that window is so narrow. And I know it's tricky for people because it's, kind of a sprint to get it all done, when so many of our reviewers are also usually presenters and people that are just giving so much, I know we're asking a lot out of kind of our, usually our most productive members as well, but we super appreciate it. And for that, we just give copious amounts of praise and love, and you can't put a price on that. That's just from the heart.
Love it.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, I would say the only other thing I would caution against, or that I would add to it, is just, in terms of comments, sometimes we get kind of random comments about things that aren't necessarily related to the papers. Because our reviewers know our authors, sometimes there's a tendency to be maybe more familiar or more, maybe, I can't think of the word I'm trying to use, maybe less formal or less guarded than you would maybe be in comments. If it was someone that you either didn't know or didn't have such a casual relationship with. And so I know that was one of the things that has come up in the past, in terms of being very specific and not letting some of our personal relationships kind of, influence some of the feedback or the way we give the feedback. So that would be the only other piece that I would add to it.
Yeah, focus on the paper, focus on the science, and
yes,
everything else can be done over dinner at CWIS.
Yes. Well, and this is our first year being a partner journal. We've had this relationship now. We've done 3 versions of this, kind of proving ourselves to the JTACS leadership. And now this is our first year of being officially a JTACS journal. And so I think we've worked really hard to get to this place. And I think now, it's really our time to shine and be certain that we're doing a great job and that we can prove that we deserve this honor. So it's exciting time. Yep. No pressure, Dr. Cardico.
Oh, none. Pressure's all
yeah, no, this is super breezy.
Yeah, no, this is a great opportunity. We don't want to squander it. I guess that's what.
Yes. Yes, it's incredible to be in this position in such a quick time frame. So I think it speaks just tremendous positive amount to the research that's been done, the reviews that have been done in the past by so many people on this call, as well as people that have worked so hard in the past. So it's a cool legacy that we're continuing to build on. So thank you for contributing your time and energy.
Awesome. If you have any questions, you can always email me, and then I'll send out this. Well, Sarah Ann is going to send out this handout as well, so you can always kind of refer to it if there's any question. It's not really a hard concept, but cool. Well, thank you for being
here. This handout came from JTACS, or is this something you created?
It came from JTACS.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's specific. Like if you look at the title, it's like JTACS instruction for CWIS.
Oh, gotcha. Yes.
So they wrote that.
Sounds good.
Very good. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me, and it was nice to see you all. And we'll see you all in person in a couple of months.
Awesome.
Thank you.